Welcome to Beans and Breakdowns, a podcast dedicated to bridging the gap between specialty coffee and the heavy music community. On this episode, I'm joined by Chase Brenneman, bassist for Comeback Kid. So grab a fresh cup of coffee and wake the fuck up! Caffeinated crew. Today on the podcast, I'm joined by Chase from Comeback Kid. How's it going?
Pretty good, man. Feeling good.
We had a little preliminary talk, so it's a little awkward when I ask somebody how's it going and then how's it going again. So sorry to put you through that.
Par for the course, you know. You can't just jump right into it, you know.
There's a little movie magic going on here.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you got drinking on your side?
We made a little coffee at home this morning. It's a bag of beans that I bought when I was in LA at Coffee Commissary. Do you know that spot?
Coffee Commissary, so good.
Oh yeah, Coffee Commissary, sorry. Yeah, so we like had lunch with some friends there and bought some beans and then I just got at home I got Mocha Master. So just fucking ground it up and threw it in there, and that's that.
I feel like it's unfair for you to say that you're not the coffee expert when you just referenced one of the premier coffee spots in LA and then said you brewed it up on your Mocha Master. That's not fair.
Honestly, I can't fully take credit for that. It's like my girlfriend bought the Mocha Master and she got us a fellow, like the grinder, you know, like the magnetic one or whatever.
The Ode, I think,
which is pretty. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that one, which is really dope. So just because like the coffee spot in our neighborhood that we would go to like literally every day we could closed about 6 months ago for like no real reason. Like I think the dude that owned it was just kind of over it. Like they were like killing it. It was so crazy busy all the time. And so they closed down and there's like not really anything amazing around. So like within walking distance at least. So we've just been making lots of coffee at home now.
What kind of a profile do you like when you're brewing at home?
I don't know, man, to be honest with you, again, like not like a full on expert, but I definitely like lately in the past I was always like a latte guy or latte with like oat milk kind of dude. But definitely in like the last year, I've been, especially since we got the Mocha Master, I've been just drinking my coffee like straight up, no cream, no anything else in it, and enjoying it like way more than I ever have before. You know, like I feel like I'm just dipping my toes into that arena, like taste, you know, like, I mean, lattes are good, you know, cappuccinos, whatever, there's like a time and a place, but it's crazy like how much more flavor you get out of it when you don't like have milk, like kind of messing it all up, you know. I mean, not messing it up, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, like fruity stuff, I guess, like fruitier like notes I'm really into, or like any like kind of chocolatey vibes. I'm like about that. So yeah, there's actually like there's a bunch of really good coffee spots in Vancouver, but there's one that we kind of started going to. It's like a ways away from my house, but it's called Nemesis. And they roast their own beans and their coffee is fucking amazing. It's really, really tasty. And they, I don't know. They have really good food and pastries and stuff like that. So try to go there like every weekend if we can.
My buddy just moved from Montreal to Vancouver because his girlfriend's going to school out there. And so he just wanted to like be closer to her while she finishes up. And he sends me like pictures while he's at shops, like Palette, I think is one that he really likes a lot. And like West Coast third wave coffee is on another level because I feel like the wave kind of started there and then like moved east. And, you know, in Montreal, we're trapped with so much European influence, which I'm not saying is a negative, but a lot of people are very wary of ditching that, you know, Italian or French style of espresso drink, espresso drinks. So I kind of envy people that live out in Vancouver where you've got like Nemesis and Palette and all these all these like crazy roasters.
Dude, I mean, there's some good spots. I mean, again, I'm just like kind of, this isn't like, I don't know this for sure, but I feel like Portland and Seattle like really pushed, like Vancouver just kind of got lumped in with those Pacific Northwest cities, and they were the ones that kind of like pushed that coffee culture, and Vancouver just kind of fell in line. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But there's so much good stuff here. Like it's crazy. I mean, you always wish there was more. It sucks when like good places like the spot that closed down the road from us was this place called Ubuntu Canteen, and they did like, it's kind of dope because they would like, you could take coffees to go if you like brought your own thermos, but they had no to go cups. Like if you went there for a coffee, like you had to drink it there, which was kind of sick.
Mm-hmm.
And their beans were all roasted by this company called Bows and Arrows that like does like insane stuff here and has been for a really long time. And yeah, the coffee was just awesome, and it was just such a good vibe, and like the people there like just cared about it so much. It was just like, it was always delicious, and that's the kind of the space you want to like go to when you're like having your like Saturday morning coffee, like
Yeah.
it's bustling and everybody's stoked, and like, I don't know. It was a good vibe. I'm super bummed it's gone now.
You hate to lose like your spot, like even if you have to move, like I had to move neighborhoods from Montreal, and I had like a normal casual spot I would go chill at. I would become friends with like one of the owners, and they had some of my favorite stuff. He also would let me like come behind the bar and show me like barista shit sometimes, which was cool.
So
And when I moved, like it was too far for me to like go to every day. And so every time I'd pop in, it would be like, oh, sorry, like I can't make it over here all the time anymore.
yeah,
And like I didn't have another spot that was doing like that style of like more progressive coffees where they're doing like flash cold brew or like flash iced coffee in the summer, and like they're doing like cool flavored drinks and things like that. Like it was all very much like, this place has coffee, but everyone goes for sandwiches. Like,
yeah, for sure.
huge bummer.
Yeah, dude. One thing I'm super jealous of, which really doesn't have anything to do with coffee, that you have out in Montreal, is bagels. Like really good bagels. Like we were just there in like the neighborhood, like the kind of the more Jewish neighborhood there, where all like the good ass bagel spots are, and it was just like, I was like, damn, I forgot about this. Like it's crazy.
Which
And I mean, like they go, you drink coffee when you eat bagels, so it kind of goes hand in hand a bit.
straight up, like which bagel place did you go to though? Because I know the one that's close to the venue, but there's one that's a little further. That's the preferred one.
So we didn't go to a bagel place that time, but the last time I was in Montreal, my friend who lives there took me to a bagel spot, and I can't remember what the fuck it was called, but I think it was like, I don't know, it was like the one, like the famous one. It was
Like there's a big
pretty,
bagel man on the window.
I think so. Yeah. That's
Same
the one.
theater.
Yeah. That was the one for sure.
That's the
It was
spot.
dope.
Yeah.
It was sick.
Some people are like Fairmount Bagels is this and Fairmount Bagels is that. It's not. It's St. Theater. That's the best one. I'm not from Montreal, but I can tell you from living here for like 6 years, that's the best bagel. It's not Fairmount.
Dude,
So,
that place was incredible. It was sick. And again, like, I don't know, it was winter, like it was probably, I guess, a year ago. So like last winter when I was there. But yeah, like just such a rad vibe, like snowy and icy and cold, but like sunny, and like everybody's like bundled up and has like their coffee and getting their morning bagels, and everything smelled so good. And
yeah.
I don't know.
I was
It's
just
pretty
over
dope.
there yesterday because my wife had like an appointment actually across from Fairmount, the venue. And so like we were over there. I wanted to get some lunch. And I don't know if you've tried it, but there's this place called Walensky's.
I don't think so, no.
It's got to be like 100 years old. But basically, you like walk in, there's 10 bar stools, there's like 5 people behind the counter, and they only sell 2 things. They sell it's called the special. It's an English muffin with like 3 slices of fried bologna, and you can pick between Swiss and cheddar or no cheese. That's it.
What the hell? That's sick.
It's $5. And then they're like, okay, do you want a side of pickles? That's the only side they offer, is a side of like homemade pickles. And then they have like a soda jerk machine. So you can get like a fresh cherry cola.
Whoa, that's fucking awesome.
Dude, my wife and I ate for $15 and we're full.
That's so sick. Dude, that's the thing about Montreal too. It's like as far as like big cities go, it's still there's still like there's so much cool stuff there, and it's still like can be kind of affordable, you know. Whereas like
Mm-hmm.
other places, it's just like I love Vancouver, it's cool, but it's just there's so much money here, and which ends up leading to like a lot of like older businesses like not being able to afford their lease anymore. So like they eventually tear the buildings down and build new shit, and it's just like there's lots of cool like newer businesses, but there's no like old like character. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like no like culture. You
Yeah.
know, it's not like allowed to like grow here. Whereas like places like Montreal feel like it's just. I mean, it's pretty cold, but in the wintertime, but I mean, it makes up for it with like character and like culture and just all the cool shit going on there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely an adjustment for the winter. Because I'm originally from like Georgia and we don't have
Yeah.
winter. And so getting used to that was like one thing, but then like during the summer and like, the warmer months, it's like I can't fucking move. Like there's no way I could leave because it's just so cool. And even in the winter, like you said, it's sunny. People are still out like doing shit because like I don't know how they know how to do it, but you can still do things in the winter here and people aren't like miserable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it's kind of scary like when you fall in love with the culture of a city that has like such a not like a niche, but it's like nowhere else like in North America. It's very difficult to like try to give that up
Shit.
to go move somewhere like yeah, so now I'm stuck here and it's great.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, like recently I was looking at my girlfriend and I were looking at places in Montreal just because it's so expensive, the cost of living in Vancouver. And for, you know, what we pay here, roughly what you could get in Montreal was like incredible. You know, the apartments are beautiful, like so
Yeah.
sick, you know? And you just start thinking, you're like, you know, I love Vancouver. It's so beautiful, like the mountains, the ocean, the summers are awesome, and the winters are pretty mild. But it's like, fuck, maybe I could like do a winter in snow. You know, maybe I could make that happen in trade for like a, you know, like a decent apartment and I don't know, all the other cool stuff that comes with living in Montreal,
You don't need a car. That's like another thing.
dude. And I mean, that we both have cars in Vancouver. It's definitely it. I mean, public transit isn't the worst here, but it's pretty sprawling. So it's definitely one of those places where like if you don't have one, you're like stuck in your neighborhood, you know?
Yeah, that's one thing because I brought a car from the States and it's like now that I live downtown, I don't really need it. Like I can just hop on
Yeah.
a metro, walk 10 minutes from the metro bit pretty much anywhere or take a bus. That's crazy. But yeah, I've heard Vancouver is like it takes a while to get around on public transit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just the train's pretty like limited. So a lot of it's buses, which is super
Yeah.
annoying. And, yeah, I don't know. It's not an ideal situation. Do you ever go to that Mano Coronado like rest spot? Do you know that spot?
I
Is
used to
that what it's
live, yeah, Monocornudo.
yeah, Mono Coronado, yeah.
I used to live literally 3 blocks from there.
That place is fucking dope.
I remember
It's
when they
really
opened
sick.
and it was sick. It's like the sandwiches, the classic where they do the truffle honey oil on it.
Yeah,
So
insane.
good.
Yeah, last time I was there, what was like we went for like lunch and it was like we had like burrata and like you know pasta or whatever, some like crazy like seafood pasta and like coffees, and it was so good. Like that's one of my favorite spots to visit when we're in Montreal if we ever get a chance to, you know.
The dudes who work there are really cool too. Like it's not like a normal Italian spot. It's
Just
very
that.
strange. But
Yeah.
yeah, like the pizza's there too. If you can ever get a pizza, like you can take it out. It's like 30 bucks or so, but it's like a thick Roman style pizza on focaccia.
Whoa.
Crazy.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. That sounds really dope.
So you get an order of
Uh,
burrata and scoop it out and then dollop it onto the pizza before you eat it. So you get like that Long Island style cold cheese pizza.
oh my God, that sounds amazing.
Stupid.
Dude, that's gonna be on my list next time we're in town for sure. That's fucking sick. Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's sick. I'll tell you what I'm drinking on now that we've gotten out of the way of gushing over Montreal. Um, I went to Pista, which is one of my favorite roasters in Montreal. They're actually pretty close to like Foufs and like Mtelis in that area. But this is their Bookkisa Natural. It is from Ethiopia and it's really good. It's like an aromatic kind of mango, pineapple, like super fruit forward coffee. Um,
So,
it's really, really sweet too. Like when you let it cool, like it's super like mango-y sweetness, almost like mango juice.
so that's awesome. Yeah, I wish I had some of that. Now I kind of regret not having some of that coffee from Nemesis on me because yeah, some of their stuff is super super dope. It's funny too because like one of the coolest parts, like the coffee is incredible, but like one of the coolest parts about the beans that they sell is the packaging is like insane. Like I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like it's one of those places where everything they do is like with so much purpose. You know what I mean? Like all the food they make and like their like pastries and stuff are like really wild, and the boxes that the coffee comes in are like leather bound,
Oh,
which is like
what?
insane. Yeah, and they like I mean like it's not real leather, like it's probably like faux, but they're
Oh
like
yeah.
all stamped. They're all like stamped and like leather, and it like comes in this little box, and you like pull like slide it open, and like the beans are in there, and it's pretty wild. It's pretty dope.
The upside down heart is sick too.
Yeah, it's cool. Like it just looks cool. Looks really. I don't know. It looks dope. The coffee is like incredible. It's a pretty dope spot.
Have you ever had shit from Onyx
I don't think so. Not that I can remember, but I know the spot.
out in like Arkansas of all places?
Yeah, I've definitely heard of it, but I don't think I've been there.
Just
Um,
their packaging is also very similar, but like a little different, but like heavy duty cardboard boxes embossed, like very cool color palette that they use for their boxes and labeling. So it kind of reminds me of that. But Onyx is really sick too. If you're ever like around Conway or Little Rock and you can get to a shop, you should try it. It's very cool.
yeah, I'm trying to think of like because I feel like maybe we have been there at some point, or maybe just a lot of people have talked about it. And that's why it's
Mhm.
like in my head, but I know the spot for sure.
On this past run that y'all did with Stick to Your Guns, do you have a memorable spot that you hit that you're like, this is the sickest coffee of the whole tour?
Um, I'll tell you like what our like typical day is like. You're probably gonna like this is like gonna be pretty shameful. I'm like throwing some guys under the bus, but so and something might pop into my head while I'm talking about this. But Jeremy, the like he does like the majority of the drive. I mean, he does basically does all the driving. Like he just loves to drive, so he'll drive every night, every morning, all day. Like it's pretty rare. There's an occasion like where one of us has to take the wheel. You know, obviously he's like super tired and there's a long drive or something.
Mhm.
And his thing, man, straight up is Starbucks. It's Starbucks. And it's like an everyday thing. Like to the point where and you know what? Like I'll be honest, side note, like when I started playing in Comeback Kid, I was never a Starbucks person. I wasn't like a coffee snob by any means, but I just didn't like it. And every day when we were in Europe, no matter where we were, you know, like the first thing that Jeremy would do in the morning was look for a Starbucks to get Wi-Fi and to like have a coffee in the morning. And his reasoning was like I can go to this place no matter where I am in the world and it always tastes the same. I know what I'm getting, and they always have internet, and it's like just a comfort away from home or whatever. Which I and then but like from sitting and drinking coffee with them like so many times, like in the mornings, like at a Starbucks, it became like a really like I don't know if like nostalgic's the right word, but it just became there's so many like fond memories attached to
Mhm.
like having like Starbucks, you know? So in this weird way, like I started to enjoy it a bit, but at this point, we've come full circle to the point where like I'm so fucking sick of it again, you know, like, and it's like every morning, Jared's like start. Oh, and they have like vegan stuff too, right? So like that's a big thing. But like every morning, it would just be like, "What are we doing? Like, where are we going?" And Jared would have Starbucks in the thing, and
Oh,
everybody would just be like rolling their eyes, like, "Fuck!" Like again, I can't fucking eat Starbucks anymore. Like this is bullshit, you know, like just getting so pissed about it. But yeah, that's like our morning routine, like every day, pretty much without fail. Unless there's like another coffee shop within, walking distance, it's pretty much Starbucks daily. And unfortunately, it's like when you're going to a Starbucks, 9 times out of 10, it's at like a, like a shopping mall or somewhere where there's literally going to be no other coffee shops, except for
Yeah.
like a Dunkin' Donuts or something like that. So I don't really know if we hit. I mean, technically, Coffee Commissary was on that tour. It was just on the West Coast portion of it, and that was really dope. And we went to another place in LA that was awesome. Fuck, my girlfriend took me. One sec, I can tell you exactly where it was. It was Canyon Coffee.
Oh yeah, Canyon.
Yeah, which was really dope. And we have some beans here that I don't think we've opened yet, but Canyon was sick.
Who
And
was I just looking at that was staying oh, my homie, the bassist in my band he's visiting some family, like his girlfriend's family in LA, and he's literally staying in Echo Park next to Canyon.
oh, really dope.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was really good.
I'm gonna send him there then.
Yeah, that place is good. That place is super good. And there was a thing that that I'm sure you'll be like familiar with. That my girlfriend saw there that she really wants to buy for us now to have at home because we have the Mocha Master, which is awesome. I love it, but she wants to like have something that can make espresso. And at Canyon, they have these like stovetop espresso kind of maker things, but they do 2 pours at once. Have you seen those? It's like
No.
a stovetop espresso maker with like a platform on it.
Oh yes. Yes, 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 yes. It's got you can put like 2 cups underneath and it's got a spout that does the whole deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can't remember who makes it, but it was really sick. And they're cheap. They're like $60 or something like
Yeah.
that.
I've seen the Bialetti version. I think my father-in-law had one at one point and he would use it like every morning.
Yeah. I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's like incredible, but I mean, it seemed like, I don't know. Canyon's pretty legit and I've heard good things. So might be worth a try, for 60
Yeah.
bucks at least. It's not that crazy.
I've
But
been using
those,
my AeroPress to do espresso, so it's probably way better than that.
that's something that I feel like I should probably have. I mean, Andrew from Stig is definitely a coffee head, and he like they have their every so often you'll see a band with like a Pelican and they got their like rig in there or whatever, and he was that dude. I'm sure the other guys are, some of them are into it, but I think he was like the main dude that was like really about, it was like every day we'd load in, they'd be done sound check and he'd be like have a scale out and like, you know what I mean, kettle and shit like that, and getting everything like pretty dope.
That's we're planning a tour in like March or May of next year, and I'm already like putting together a Pelican because I've converted like 3 out of 5 of my band to coffee people. So I'm gonna do like the kettle. I don't know if it's an AeroPress I'm gonna take or a pour over, but I'm already like do you know Gage from Exide at all?
No, I don't think so.
He's cool, but he has like a coffee chat that he like shared this fucking Pelican thing, and I was like, which model is that? Like, I need the deets. Like, give me the
Dude, that's
specs,
awesome.
man.
Yeah, that's so
So
sick. Yeah, I feel like I mean, obviously, I feel like that's the one of like the best bonding things to have on tour is like going for coffee with other people, especially like in other bands or whatever.
mhm.
But just because there was so much driving on this last run, we didn't really have like and not really a lot of days off. We didn't really have a lot of time to do that, not as much as we normally would.
Mhm.
But every so often, it's like we did a tour last year in December in Europe, and Silverstein was on that tour, and their guitar tech and their drum tech and their drummer Paul are all like they're super into like coffee and just getting up first thing in the morning and going to grab stuff. And I usually wake up really early when I'm over there. So that was kind of like our morning routine was like Paul would always like find like the best spot to go get coffee wherever we were. And we'd just like go there and, enjoy that and just like
Mhm.
talk for a bit or whatever, which was kind of nice. It was a nice way to start the day. And usually like more often than not, there'd be like a really sick spot to go check out within like a half an hour walk of wherever our bus was parked or whatever,
Yeah, for sure. I saw them last night.
Oh yeah, no way. They're
Yeah.
because they're doing that 10 year or whatever, right?
The wind shifts album.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was with Stray, which was
Oh yeah, how was it?
the sound was like kind of whack for the first two bands. I don't know what was going on, but Silverstein's. I mean, I don't think they ever miss. So
Yeah, dude, it's pretty sick. I mean, like it was probably Jake that was doing sound for them. He's fucking awesome, and it's just crazy now, dude. Like just the way, like it's funny because they were always when we were on tour with them. He record so they use these things called like quad cortexes, those like digital amp modeler pedals or whatever, and
mm-hmm.
like just have like like everything's just like super dialed in for them. And Jake, like, he has his own board and like just does like he records it
Mm-hmm.
every night, and then whenever they show up at the venue the next day, instead of having to do a sound check, he'll just do a digital sound check. So he'll just play the show from the night before on the PA of the venue that they're at, and then just like mix it so they don't have to do fucking shit. It's like every time we were showing up at a town, they would be like, yo, we're gonna go to this coffee spot, and like we're gonna go out here for dinner and like do this and do that. Like, come on, like let's go, guys, or whatever. And we'd be like, dude, we have to fucking sound check. Like, fuck you guys. And they'd be like, all right, see ya, like whatever. And they'd be off like gallivanting around town, having the best time. And like we'd just be like sitting there, like waiting for like a couple hours until we could like get our shit done. And then I was so jealous. And then they just like, like they just throw their gear on and like walk out on stage, and like they're just like, no checking, no nothing, like so easy. It was pretty dope. They just had so much free time.
They're like one of my favorite bands ever because I was like a scene kid for a long time, and I think it was like the height of like when Discovering the Waterfront came out was like my scene-ness. So
Yeah.
they have a very very soft spot for me because as soon as they play anything off of Discovering the Waterfront or the fucking first one like Smashed into Pieces and all that, When Broken is Easily Fixed, those two albums are
Yeah.
like I don't think I'll ever forget a single song off of those two records.
They're all such rad dudes, guys that we've known for like a super long time, and like Jeremy, Andrew, and Stu more so because they've been in the game like way longer than I have. But yeah, dude, it's crazy. Such nice dudes, and it's incredible to me, like especially being around them and like watching, because like Paul manages, they like self-manage themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just incredible like how successful they've been for so long. And like I think that band's bigger than they've ever been now, and that so much of that has to do with like the way that they conduct themselves, like how they deal with like their business. And it's like, dude, so much respect to like how they like do that, because not everybody can make that happen. You know what I mean? Like yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to watch and like be around. And it definitely like, it's cool. Like Paul was always like, he was definitely like giving us advice with certain things that we were like dealing with at the time. And I don't know, dope band, and they fucking kill it. And I'm always fucking stoked to see them doing that. So
Let's move into some music talk now that we've talked about Silverstein, because if we keep talking about Silverstein, this podcast will be an hour and a half of emo music talk. But tell me a bit about kind of your background, how you got into hardcore. I know you were also in Lions, so that's a bit more pop punk, but still fucking it's adjacent. So I guess give me a bit of your background being from like the West Coast and how it comes up to, I guess, you being a part of Comeback Kid now.
Yeah, so I mean, we started living with Lions in like 2006 or something. I met a bunch of guys in Vancouver, and we started the band, and we and then started touring. I don't know if you remember that band Daggermouth.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so they were good friends of ours. They took us on a couple tours, and we kind of got our feet wet, and then started meeting people, meeting bands. Like people started putting our records out, and then we started getting on tours like Boys Night Out. I don't know if you're familiar with that band, but that was like one of my emo definite like hero bands. They were like very like, I guess, close with like Silverstein, definitely in that world.
It rings a bell.
In that world, and like in that and like both also from Toronto, so they were like all
Okay.
friends and stuff. But did a tour with like Boys Night Out, which was like pretty fucking wild for me at the time because that was like one of my favorite bands. They were a Fearless band, or no,
Okay.
sorry, they weren't a Fearless band. They were on I can't remember now. Okay,
Not
we'll get
Ferret.
back to
Was it
that.
Ferret?
Yeah, Ferret. It was
Okay.
Ferret. Sorry, yeah. But yeah, so we did that, and we're like, yeah, it's starting to tour the U.S. more, and then like sure enough, like flash forward, 5 years or whatever, and we're playing shows with Come Back In, and that was kind of like how we met all those dudes. Became friends with Andrew and Jer, and at the time like the other guys that were in the band, and we kept on like touring a ton, and yeah, and then that's kind of like, I guess, the short story of how I came to be in Comeback Kid. Lauren also is in Comeback Kid, the drummer from Living with Lions. So
Hmm.
it's just more so like being friends with them, like being close with them, like over all those years, and like spending a lot of time together. And then when they needed a drummer, they brought Lauren on, and then when they needed bass player, I think they were a little bit resistant to like having me join the band just because there's maybe a few too many ex-members of Living with Lions like on the roster at that point. Like Stu, who used to sing in the Living with Lions, was playing
Hmm.
guitar for them. So it was like, yeah, it was like a bit much, but I did a tour with them, and they were like, this is a good fit. So that was kind of that. But yeah, like like you said, like Lions is a pop punk band, and I guess like punk stuff is more like my world, like more than real hardcore stuff is. Like, obviously, I mean, I'm 36 now. I just turned 36. So it was weird. I grew up in this really small town uh, on Vancouver Island called Comox. And so, like, a lot of the music that I was exposed to when I was younger was like, yeah, punk stuff, like just a lot of skate punk stuff, like NoFX and Rancid and
Right.
like Wagon and all that stuff, obviously. Green Day, and then like bigger bands like Green Day and stuff. And then it was like whatever was like whatever weird like local band or like band touring the island from Vancouver was playing at the community center in Comox. So like that was all I was really like, you know, like that was all I really knew. And there wasn't a lot of people where I grew up that was like were really into like hardcore, or really, I don't even think like really knew what it was. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
obviously people were listening to like older bands like Nodball and Sick of It All and stuff like that, but there wasn't really like a hardcore like scene. It was just kind of whatever came through.
Right.
But yeah, for me it was like definitely like Misery Signals, which is kind of funny because like Stu's like one of my best friends now, and
Right.
um yeah, like Malice is for sure like one of my favorite. I mean, I know that's like more like of a metalcore thing, but I feel like that's in the same world, that's like one of my favorite records ever. Like, and it's like kind of silly and like cheesy to say, but like Comeback Kid was like a big one for me, just because it was like such a segue, like from like more melodic like punk influence stuff to like hardcore. I could listen to like Turn It Around or Wake the Dead and be like, this, like I like this, I know this, like this is familiar to me.
Right.
But then it like they just brought in like so much more, of like heavier stuff that I was listening to at the time, and like Bane and stuff like that. So I don't know. I guess for me, it was just kind of, a lot of that stuff was just kind of popular at the time that I was like discovering music. And that was how I like kind of found my way into that world.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, I don't know. Again, like for me, it's always been more on like the punk side of things, that's kind of been more my forte. And, but I mean, obviously, like touring with Comeback Kid and like spending more time in this like world, and like staying with Lions, like we toured with a ton of hardcore bands. Obviously, you like kind of find your niche, like find stuff that you like, tour with bands that you fall in love with or whatever. So I don't know, man. And I mean, like especially now, it's like fuck, like I don't even know what hardcore is anymore. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like so many, like it's like you have like obviously you're like heavy, like fucking hardcore bands that without a doubt like live in that world. But then you have bands like Scowl and like Military Gun and like so many bands that are like in that universe, but like are doing, and even like a band like Turnstile, it's like, they're in there, but like doing such different shit.
Right.
It's like the genre has like expanded so much, which is cool. It's like
Hmm.
a really exciting thing to be involved in. Because I can't remember like a time like this where it was just so diverse and so crazy, and so many bands were like pushing like
Right.
in so many different directions. I was never around for anything like this, at least. So it's cool to see.
It's interesting the point you make of being from like a smaller town where you have one DIY or all ages spot and you just go see whoever's playing. Because I do feel like the majority of people, that's kind of how they were brought up, unless you're from like a Toronto or a Montreal or like a New York or something, like where you have lots of other venues and you kind of you have other scenes. You don't just have the scene, like
Yeah.
capital S.
Yeah.
And so like for me as well, growing up, it was like always mixed bills, always just, like kids who kind of knew each other that had a band. And then maybe there was like one or two out of town bands that were playing. Like I remember getting my band got thrown on a show because the venue was overbooked. So they just smashed both the shows together because two of the bands were from Philly, like Agitator and somebody else. And like we didn't want them to not make money basically. So we were like, okay, like we'll just fix the lineups and like give them a better spot so that they don't have like a giant walkout and they can sell merch. But like basically just like working that way where we're not like a super hardcore band, but we're going to play with this straight edge beatdown band, which is weird. So,
Yeah, for sure.
but it's cool because you find out what you like and what you don't like, and then you can kind of, curate your own path that way. When you grow up in a city where it's like only hardcore, and then you've got these dudes that are like, that's not hardcore. This is hardcore. You can only listen to fucking Minor Threat and Fugazi, and that's it. And it's like,
Yeah.
like why? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's crazy. And I mean, like Misery Signals was one of those bands that played in Comox. They played in Courtney and like stayed at my friend's house. And, like, and I didn't know any of the guys like personally at that time, but that was like one of the reasons why I mean, Malice wasn't even out yet, like they were touring their EP, but that was like one of the reasons why I discovered that record, like if they had never played in like this tiny fucking little town in the middle of nowhere, I would have probably never really like figured that out. So it's trippy. It's crazy how much of an effect bands playing in like tiny little towns can have, like
yeah,
on people. Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty insane.
sometimes you gotta play Barry.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, damn. We did it last year, and I think that's gonna be our once every like 4 or 5 years. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, we're a Canadian band, so I feel like you kind of you have to roll through those towns more often than not. But yeah, man, there's a lot of weird places to play in Canada, man, and you kind of almost can't avoid them. Like going through Northern Ontario, if you choose to go through Northern Ontario, like you're in for a weird time. Great people, but it's gonna be weird.
Yeah, it's gonna be different.
Yeah, for sure. We did a tour. A lot. I was living with Lions at the time, but it was with Comeback Kid, Madball, Wilhelm Scream, and Living with Lions. And we did a tour. It was a cross Canada tour, and we played in Thunder Bay and Timmins with Madball. It was so insane. Like imagine
Timmins?
Madball, Timmins, Ontario, dude. Like for people, like I'm sure like 99.9% of the people listening to this have no idea where or what Timmins is, but it's like, I don't know, a town of like maybe like a couple that like 5,000 people ish, maybe.
Yeah, it's not big.
Maybe, I mean, maybe it's more than a little bit more than that, but it's a tiny town and it's like in the middle of nowhere, super hick, like Shania Twain's from fucking Timmins. And yeah, we played in this bar on the floor. There's probably like, I don't know, like 80 to 100 people there. It was probably the biggest like Timmins show ever, aside from like a Shania Twain show or whatever. But Yeah, it was pretty funny. We played on the floor, and I'm sure all the dudes in Madball were just like, "What the fuck is going on right now?" And at the time, Jay Weinberg, who recently he was playing drums for them. It was the
Right.
tour that they kicked him out of the band. And yeah, it was crazy. There was like a strip club across the road, and I remember going over to the strip club with Freddie and somebody else after the show was over. And I didn't really know Freddie all that well. Like, like he's like a super nice dude, but
Yeah.
like we're not like tight or whatever. And he ended up getting in a fight with the DJ at the strip club because the DJ was just like being a huge fucking asshole. And I guess that's just how he treats people. But like obviously like Freddie was just like, I'm not gonna like take this. So he just like tried to beat up the DJ at the strip club, and like, dude, it was crazy. We got thrown out. Some dude like strangled me. It was fucking crazy. I mean, I'm 5'7" and like weak and scared. Like I'm not trying to fight anybody. I was just kind of like behind Freddie being like, yeah, fuck you guys. And like next thing like a bouncer like grabbed me by the throat. Yeah. And I'm like, help, help. But yeah, it was pretty funny. It was weird, man. It was weird.
Oh man, I played a few shows in rural Quebec, which is
Well, yeah, where nobody speaks English.
semi, yeah.
Eh,
I mean, it's rural. I mean, there's a few of those. But like, I don't know if you know where the town of Drummondville is.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we played there recently, and I would say 75 to 80% of the audience didn't speak English. So like, I'm like in between sets, not speaking any French at all, and it's like blank stares.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Oh, that's awkward, dude. That's
I
so
don't know if
awkward.
have you had any of those too? Did y'all ever play like Trois Rivières or something like that? And it's like, what the fuck?
I I think it was Trois Rivières or maybe somewhere. It was kind of northern area, but I can't remember exactly what city it was. But it was on that Mad Ball tour. We played a city somewhere, and we needed a place to stay because Lions were like grinding hard at the time. So it was like we didn't, we weren't getting hotels or whatever, and yeah, we needed a place to stay. And somebody like maybe the promoter or whatever was like, yeah, this guy can like take care of you guys. You can stay at his house. And we went over to this dude's house, and he didn't speak any English at all. And we just chilled with him. Like Lions we like, I mean, especially at that time, like we like to hang out. We like to have beers like after the show and like party a bit. So like, yeah, our guitar player Landon, like he's a big like party, like drink, kind of like hang out and chat kind of guy. And it was just, dude, it was so funny, like watching him try to like hang out with this dude for 2 hours, and neither one of them understood anything the other person was saying. You know what I mean? Like, but it's like they refused to allow that to like get in the way of like their good time that they were having. You know what I mean? Yeah, such a trip, dude. So weird, but awesome at the same time. I love
Yeah,
Quebec. I love that there's just a place in North America that's that fucking weird and different, you know?
yeah, it's amazing. And
Cool.
and poutine is also incredible from there.
Oh, dude, it's one of the best foods ever.
It's the birthplace. It's the patient zero of poutine. Were you playing bass and living with Lions, or were you the vocalist?
No, at that time I was playing guitar and singing,
Okay.
and Stu was singing on that tour, and yeah, I'd always like played guitar in that band. And then when Stu left, it was just kind of like, I guess I'll just sing now.
Okay.
But at that time, but like when it got to that point, like we weren't really touring like super hard anymore. That was kind of like when things started to wind down a bit for the band. We still do stuff. We still play shows. We still like write, and
Mhm.
we'll still put out records like whenever we can. But it was just, like it just got to a point where like Blandon moved to Calgary, which is 12 hours away from Vancouver. Lauren was playing a comeback kid at the time. Um, we just weren't able to tour like as much as we'd want to. It just
Yeah.
like everybody got to that like point, age, whatever it was, and was just like, there was a limit to like what we could do. And then yeah, and then comeback kid like was I'd actually never played bass in my life. So when I was like at first I was asked to fill in on my tour. They were like, Ron wasn't able to do like a tour in Europe. And I was like, and so the Stu asked me like, can you, a month and a half out, like, can you do this, like fill in for this tour? And I was like, yeah, no problem, like easy. So I like got a bass and like sat down at my computer at home and like listened to the songs and was just like, but like my feeble, like tiny little mind, like guitar mind was like not knowing that like playing bass is like kind of different than playing guitar. Like I listened to the songs and was like, I can't do this. Like I this is impossible. Like I'm like listening to like this super fast, like palm muting and like weird things. And I'm like, no, I can't do this on a bass. And I was like panicking for a little while. I was like, I'm fucked. Like I'm going to have to tell them I can't do this or whatever. And then I kind of like, they gave me like an isolated version of all the bass tracks. And I realized that a lot of the bass playing with the really fast stuff is like half the speed. And I'm like, yeah, okay. All right, I got this. So I figured it out and like, yeah, I learned how to do that. And yeah, man. And so I still a work in progress. Like I think I fucking suck at bass still, but I figured it out to like be passable at least.
Right.
I actually had like an absolute nightmare scenario happen to me on that first tour. We were touring with, it was us and Knocked Loose and what the fuck? Why am I forgetting their name right now? The band that just broke up from Buffalo. Every Time I Die. Why? I don't know why. I forgot their name. Yeah, it was us. Every Time I Die, Knocked Loose, and we for some reason were headlining in Europe. This was like before Knocked Loose like really really took off, and we were playing this show in like Cologne, and it was like pretty big, like about like 1,000 I'd say people.
Damn. And
like Stu was like, dude, so be ready, like practice up really good because Andrew likes to just like change shit up. Like right before we play, he'll fucking change up songs. He'll change up the way we want to start them and like da-da-da-da-da. So just be like on your toes, be ready, be prepared. Okay, cool. And by the way, I learned all the songs and then we flew to Germany to start the tour and they were like, yeah, we'll jam. And I get there and I'm like, yo, so like we jamming or what? Like I'm ready to do this. And they're like, oh no, man, we don't have our guitars. Like it's all good. We'll just like go into it and just play the first show.
Oh, fuck.
And I was like, no, no, like we can't do that. And they were like, we're going to do it. And I was like, all right, like this is on you guys, like this isn't going to go well, but whatever. But the first show was like totally fine. So we're playing the second show in Cologne. And right before we go on stage, sure enough, Andrew's like, yo, come here. Okay. And he's like, so we're going to play Talk is Cheap third, but Lauren's not going to count you in. He's like, I'm just going to scream it. Talk is cheap. And when I say cheap, you start the bass line. And like, that's how we're going to go into the song. And I was like, okay, I think I can do that. Like just so many things in my head, like, I'm like, can I remember how to play any song, let alone like, you know what I mean? Like, even though you practiced it, it's like, you're not comfortable.
Right.
You're still kind of like getting into this vibe of everything. And like, you're only thinking about like making sure you play things right, And so anyways, we start the set and we get to Talk is Cheap. And Andrew's just going, Talk is, and I'm just like, fuck, wait, how do I start the song? Oh my God, what's the tempo? Like, and he gets to Cheap and he just like hits, he just goes cheap. And I just go, ding, 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 yeah. And kind of like stop and like just turn around. Like I just blanked, dude, in front of like all these people. And everybody started laughing and like even like got like even them because it's like you don't stop, don't turn around, like you just gotta. But the song starts with bass, so I completely fucked it. I just had to stop, and everybody like Stu was like pointing at me and like laughing, like oh, and like Andrew and everybody was laughing, and I was just like, oh my God, dude, this is like literally a nightmare, like something that you would, like dream of, and. Yeah, and Andrew was like, oh, like, this is our fill and bass player, Chase. Like, give it up for Chase or whatever. Yeah. Fuck you, man. Fuck you and your changes. And then, yeah, and then we just, like, started the song and it was all good. But that was like, dude, that was the most insane fucking introductory to Comeback Kid ever.
It's like a welcome to the family hazing moment.
Dude, it was so bad. It was so bad. But yeah, pretty fucking funny.
Did you help write Heavy Steps? Were you on the record?
Uh,
Because you've officially been since like 2021, right?
yeah, I mean, like, so that first tour was in 2017, and that was like I pretty much started playing with them like right after that,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy. Like, uh, yeah, because that's like fucking like 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ron came back for like a tour or two, and then I kind of just stepped in after that. But yeah, Heavy Steps. I didn't really have a lot to do with that record. That was, Stu and Jer wrote a ton of stuff for that record, and Andrew obviously like wrote some songs, and we, I guess, did like all the pre-pro. Like we were all there together for like the writing sessions. We kind of got together and rented a house and just kind of like worked on everything like together. And obviously Lauren had like a ton of input as far as like drum stuff goes. But honestly, for me, like it was pretty hands off for the most part. Like I had like little bits of input into things here and there, but for the most part, like there's a lot of cooks in that kitchen, like Jer and Andrew are original members, they know the way they want certain things to sound. And I think
Right.
they're pretty good at compromising on certain things. But between them and also Stu and all of them being like super prolific writers and like writing like heavy music for so fucking long, like it's just a world that I'm not even like close to. You know what I mean? Like they're on another planet. So I do have like opinions, and like obviously like I've been writing music for a really long time, but it's just, yeah, I don't know if it's a lot of the time I'm like, this is not my place. You know what I mean? To be like, I don't know about that breakdown. You know what I mean? Like they know what they're doing, like I'm just gonna try to make like a bass line that like works well, and it's never really that complicated for me, but I'll throw things in when I can, or like try to like help with like a vocal thing or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but for the most part, it was those guys like carrying the majority of that stuff for sure.
What's your favorite song to play live?
I mean, it's probably Wake the Dead,
It's
just because
gotta
it
be,
goes
right?
off so hard all the time. Like it's fun, honestly. Like some nights, especially if it's like a really good reaction, like I have more fun like watching what the fuck's going on than I do any. Like it's like fun for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm the crowd, dude. Um, yeah, like when we played that song at the observatory in Orange County, it was fucking crazy. It was so wild. It was super, super fun. But yeah, I don't know. That song goes off, and then I don't know, my favorite song to play aside from that, maybe like, I mean, Heavy Steps is pretty fun. I like that song, and it's a new one, so
Yeah.
yeah, I dig that. I dig that one a lot.
I think that's my favorite new one is Heavy Steps.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. It's like, I mean, they've always been pretty good at like walking that line between like, having a heavy band, but also being able to mix that like melody in. It's
Mhm.
definitely become a lot more of a thing, I feel like, in the later part of the band's career, like they always had like a melodic aspect to them, but they like obviously like really started bringing the singing in, like I guess it kind of started with broadcasting, but
Yeah.
I don't know, it's cool. Like I feel like there's probably a lot of people that like kind of hate on it and like don't like that aspect, but obviously like not being in the band for like for most of their catalog, from like an outsider's perspective, and I might be a little bit biased because obviously I listen to like music that's a little bit more melodic for most of the time. Um, I think that's cool. Like I think it's probably a like kind of a scary step to take when you're like living in a hardcore world, to like actually like push outside of the box and like try to appeal. I mean, not that they were trying to appeal to more people, but like in a way it's a move that you are like at least making your band like more accessible.
Mhm.
And I don't think that was ever like the intent, but I think I like admire that, because it's not an easy step to take. You're alienating like a lot of your like fans from like an
Right.
earlier date. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Like, I mean, they've been a fucking band for 23 years now, and you know, they've been killing it forever. So a lot of respect
Yeah.
for how they go about things, and the way they write their music and stuff.
Yeah. Definitely. I think Wake the Dead is probably one of the first hardcore songs I ever heard. So they've been a part of my life for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, like that, and that, like, just it's kind of weird to say, and like maybe people like cringy for like the if the dudes here, but it's kind of the same thing for me, like Turn It Around, and then obviously Wake the Dead was like a big one for me. Like those were some of the first like hardcores I didn't even really know,
Yeah.
like it was like
It was
Bane.
heavy, right?
Was
Yeah.
this,
Like,
totally, and
yeah.
Bane was like the same thing to me, and it's funny because the Bane thing for me, coming like living in a small town and not knowing or having anybody like feeding me any kind of hardcore music, it was like because I would hear bands like Minor Threat and fucking Gorilla Biscuits, and to me that was just punk music. Like I was just like, oh, this is like old punk music,
Right.
like nobody was like really like guiding me through like what this was and what this was. But yeah, fuck. Now I kind of missed where I was going with that. Um,
Bane.
oh yeah, Bane. So like the Bane thing was like, and this is again like kind of cheesy and weird, but it's like they were on Atticus. You know what I mean? And like I'm like, and you're following all the bands that are like sponsored by that company, and like obviously like Blink and shit like that, and it's like you're listening to all those bands, and you're like, whoa, what the fuck is this? Like this is crazy. I've never heard anything like this before. It's just such a weird. It's so weird and like kind of funny to look back at that, and then maybe it's not the coolest way to like fucking find that shit, but I don't know. Um, when you grow up in a small town, like you have to fucking take that shit up. I would literally just go on Napster and just type in punk and
Mm-hmm.
just like search that and then just download whatever I could, and through that, like, I mean, one of my favorite bands ever is Saves the Day. And I'll never forget, like, the very first time I ever heard a Saves the Day song was like just searching on Napster that way, And yeah, man, I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's pretty
Yeah.
funny how you used to find bands, anyways.
Let me know what you guys have going on through the end of the year into next year.
Um, we head back over to Europe next week for a tour with the Amity Affliction, Alpha Wolf, Mugshot, and that's
Damn.
like all over Europe. And yeah, it should be sick. Like, um, it's like the last couple tours we've done over there have definitely been like a little bit outside of our realm. Like we did that tour with Silverstein, but that tour with Silverstein was like Coil was on that too as well. Like shout out that band because
Love
those
Koyo.
dudes are fucking awesome and their new record is unbelievable. Like I'm a huge fan of that band. So yeah, it was a good, and yeah, we had a great time hanging out with them, but it was like weird. It was just, it's a different world, like playing with, a bunch of people that are like obviously there to see Silverstein. And then this time going with Amity, it's going to be like a little bit of a different thing for us, but obviously like super grateful because Amity is like killing it. They're going to be awesome, like big shows, and, they brought us out. So like tons of respect and very, very grateful for that. But yeah, we're doing that. We're doing a Canada tour in March that we're still kind of like hammering out the details on, but I'm pretty sure that's all happening now. And then we're just like doing like a ton of like festival stuff in Europe next June, July, August. And yeah, I don't know. Like there's a ton of like tour. I think, oh yeah, in South America at the beginning of next year. So it's like, it's pretty busy. Like it's already like really piled up,
Filled up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, but I don't know. Pretty stoked. We got that. There's a bunch of shit going on next year, and then like it's Comeback Kid turns 25 years old, and Wake the Dead turns 20 years old in 2025. So not next year, but the year following. So we're like obviously like talking about that and trying to figure out what is going to happen there, but obviously like nothing that we know of for sure, or like can like tell people yet, but there's going to be some really sick stuff happening in 2025 for sure.
If there's a repress with a package of merch, I'm immediately buying it. I don't know if I care about the price at this point.
Dude, it's funny because it was kind of like, um, I don't know like how excited the guys were, some of the guys, about printing a bunch of Turn It Around merch for the 20th anniversary of that record, which was this year, or
Mhm.
maybe I
It was
think it
oh
was
03, I
this
think.
year.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we like did like a merch spread that was like a Turn It Around. That was like all throwback designs, like old Turn It Around designs, and there's a little bit of like opposition to it, but dude, I was like, you guys are crazy, man. Like, people love this shit. This is like what people like came up on with Comeback Kid. Like, come on. And sure enough, like the way that it went, like the guys were like, okay, like maybe we're a little bit more open to like the anniversary merch spreads now, So I'm sure there will definitely be a bunch of sick Wake the Dead stuff. Like, I mean, obviously, like they've all been talking about it and kind of throwing some ideas around because we don't want to really like flub that, it'll be a
Yeah.
pretty big, important year for us, and hopefully get to like celebrate that shit and do lots of cool shit.
Well, I'm super excited to hear about. I know it's like fucking a year and a half from now, but that's gonna be a big fucking year. Like
I hope
that's gonna be a
so.
big
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
There's always like, it's just weird when you're planning shit like that because there's always so many like grand ideas and there's only so much shit you can like pack into 365 days. So, you know, just try to make the most of it. Hopefully we can come up with some like cool shit to do and I'm sure it'll be awesome. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
That's sick. Hopefully I hear about the Canadian date soon because I live in Canada and I don't want to have to drive to the States to see a show. That's my only thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
usually when
Yeah.
there's a Canadian tour, Montreal is one of the 5 cities that you play. So, and I say that as a joke because there's definitely more than 5 cities, but there's only like 4 worth going to.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be fun to see you guys again.
It'll be dope. Like, I mean, I'm like, obviously we can't divulge any information on it
Right.
yet, but it's going to be a really sick package of bands. So I'm fucking like definitely one of the coolest Canadian tours that Comeback has done in a really long time. So it'll be awesome when we finally get to like announce it.
I bet I can guess who one of the bands is. I'm not going to say it right now, but I'll tell you
Okay.
after. Okay.
Okay.
But Chase, it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed talking to you. Before we go, I just have one last question. What's your favorite city for beans and breakdowns?
Favorite city for beans? I'd have to say Portland, Oregon. Does it
Mm-hmm.
have to be the same city?
You don't have to do the same city.
Okay, Portland, Oregon. Maybe like some of the best coffee I've ever had has been at spots there. Breakdowns. Uh, I guess New York, man. New York's, yeah, one of my all-time faves. I would honestly put Montreal up there too, just because like I feel like that's like maybe the best heavy music scene in Canada, and shows are so good there all the time. But yeah, if I can split my answer up, it'd be New York, Montreal,
Sick.
Portland
Yeah.
for beans.
The New York is sick. You got to put some respect on the name of New York, especially when it comes to hardcore and emo now. I guess they're kind of killing it. You know, we had Taken Back Sunday and fucking Brand News from there. I don't know if I can say Brand
Yeah,
New anymore, but before we knew all the
for sure.
bullshit, that was a good ass band.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. Well, in my personal opinion, Koyo is like has like taken that torch in like all the right ways, like musically or whatever. I remember the first time I heard them, I was like, this sounds like old Brand New, but
yeah,
like better.
yeah,
And I mean, their new record is like way more than that, but yeah, I don't know. That band's fucking. It's like everything I want to hear when it comes to like that type of music coming
yes.
from New York, like that kind of. They just like basically carry on from like Taking Back Sunday, that era. Like it's fucking dope.
There's
And those
also a
guys rule.
lot of Census Fail in there, like a lot of early Census Fail,
Yeah,
which such a good band. But yeah, those dudes, and it helps when they're nice. Like when a band that you really want to like and puts out good music are nice people.
yeah, they rock.
So cool. But yeah, I've seen Koyo like 5 times, and I feel like it never gets old.
Nah, it's so cool, dude. It's so cool to see. And yeah, like you said, like they're just genuine down to earth dudes and they fucking make sick music. So, so
Yes.
pumped for those dudes, man.
We're Team Koyo over here at Beans and
Yeah,
Breakdowns. So,
hell yeah.
but Chase, thanks so much for everything. Thanks for hanging out, and hopefully we'll be seeing you on March.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Thanks for everything. Stoked. This was awesome.
Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Beans and Breakdowns. I want to say a huge thanks to Chase for hanging out on the podcast. Be sure to check out the newest single, Trouble in the Winner's Circle from Comeback Kid, available on all streaming platforms, and look out for their upcoming tour dates for the next year. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. You can find out more information about the podcast by following us on Instagram at Beans and Breakdowns or on the web at beansandbreakdowns.com. Until next week, be sure to stay caffeinated and wake the fuck up.